Welcome, gentlemen. To your surprise, this is going to be a review video for your quiz, all right? So we're going to have a quiz. This is going to be the review video, and everything you need to know is going to be here. I was going to put this all in a PDF, but I'm just going to put it in a video, and you can watch it and instead of just read it, all right? And get all the explanation with it instead of trying to refigure all that out on your own. Let's start with the general form of a quadratic real quick. All right, so we have the quadratic function f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c, all right? And from this, there's some pieces of information we want to get out of it, all right? You want to get the zeros, or the roots. Let's write that down. These are all the same, okay? Same. Ooh. Same. I'm going to write them over here for you. Same. Okay. Zeros. Where did it go? Zeros. Roots. And what else? Zeros, roots, x-intercepts, right? These are all equivalent, okay? And how do we find these? Do you remember? We find them, that's right, with the quadratic formula. So let's write the quadratic formula down real quick. So quadratic formula, what was that? There we go. Okay, so you need to remember what the quadratic formula is. You need to know this by heart, okay? You need to know the quadratic formula by heart. It's x equals a negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, all right? And this a, b, and c, they're the same a, b, and c from our general form of the quadratic. So this a here is the same as this a, and it appears right there as well. And that means that this b and this b and this b are all the same, as well as this c and this c, all right? And this finds our solutions, our zeros, finds the solutions when f of x equals 0. It's also the solution when f of x equals 0, okay? And this gives our zeros. This gives us our x-intercepts, right? Don't forget. Excuse me, guys. We also need to be able to find the vertex algebraically, all right? And the vertex is represented by the letters h, k. So our vertex is the point h, comma, k, all right? So we have to solve for h. What is h? H is equal to a negative b over 2a. If you take a look over here at the quadratic formula, you can see that we have a negative b over 2a, and that's one place that we get this from, all right? That the x-coordinate for our vertex, okay? And then we have to find k. K is going to be, k is equal to f of h. So whatever h is, we plug that into our function, and it will find our vertex k. Right, there are some important points that we can get from these equations, all right, from this information, that we can still get besides just these things. All right, we can find the maximum or minimum value of the quadratic, all right? So the max / min value We're talking about the value, not a point, okay? So the max or min value is just what? It's y equals, it's the y equals k, right? We don't need to worry about axis of symmetry right now. We'll worry about that later. So we have a max or min value, and it's at the vertex, right? So this max or min value is at the vertex, and in particular, it's the k value. All right. Let's see. What else do we need to remember that we need to find? Oh yes, that's right. Do you remember the y-intercept? So we need to find the y-intercept as well. So what is the y-intercept? The y-intercept, right? That's where I cross the y-axis, correct? So what is the x value where I cross the y-axis? The x value, that's right, it's 0, okay? So that means that's the same as finding f of 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this into my general form so that you can see it. So this general form represents all quadratic equations, so this will always be the truth. This will always hold. Right? So f of 0 is going to equal c. So my y-intercept then is going to be the point 0, comma, c. All right? So far, so good? I hope so. So these are all the formulas that we're going to use to do everything algebraically, to get all the information we need to graph our parabolas, our quadratic functions, and find the important data. All right? So let's do a little bit of practice here, plugging in to the quadratic formula and solving, and then we'll actually apply this information to some basic questions. All right? All right, so let's try and find, so what we want to do here, I didn't write the instructions up here, but I want it to, let's find what? Well, these are all equations, they're not functions, right? So can I find anything? No, but I can solve for x, right? So let's solve for x, right? Remember, that's the same. Let's go back here really quick. Using the quadratic formulas, if I'm solving for x, that finds the solution when f of x equals 0. So basically on all these questions here, f of x is 0. That's not there, right? That's because it's 0. I am not going to write down the quadratic formula here for you because you should have it memorized. You need to know it for the quiz. I'm not giving you any of these formulas, guys. You're going to need to know them and how to use them, okay? That doesn't mean you won't have your calculator to use, all right? But you need to know how to do this stuff also algebraically. You will have a question on your quiz where you will have to do this algebraically, all right? So let's keep moving, okay? So we have to identify A, B, and C, and on this first one, I will write every little step out for you so that you can see it. So here, A is going to equal 1 because that's the coefficient with the x squared. B is going to equal 4 because that's the coefficient that goes with x. And C equals 3. So if I plug those numbers into the quadratic formula, you're going to get x equals a negative b, so that's a negative 4, plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 3. All over 2a, which is going to be 2 times 1. Okay? And now we simplify. This is where most of you make your mistakes, so let's be careful, all right? So it's a negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared is 16 minus 4 times 1 is 4 times 3 is 12 all over 2. which is going to equal a negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 all over 2, which equals negative 4 plus or minus 2 all over 4. Now this is where some of you were getting mixed up before. What do I do with this plus or minus business, right? This plus or minus business means that I have two options. I have a negative 4 plus 2 over 2, and I have a negative 4 minus 2 over 2. That's what that plus or minus means, all right? I have two different expressions here that I need to use, that I need to simplify. So I end up with a, let's get the right color here, huh? I end up with a negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. And this is going to give me a negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. So what are my solutions then? My solutions then are going to be, well, how do we write our answers? Something we're going to learn here is that we write our answers as solution sets. So it's going to be x is equal to a set of numbers that are negative 3, comma, negative 1. All right, those are the x values. If I said find the intercepts, right, instead, then that would be the point negative 3, 0, and negative 1, 0, right? But we're solving here, so it's a little different. All right, now let's try the next one. Hopefully you can do it. Matter of fact, what I would like you to do now is I'd like you to pause the video and try the next three, okay? I want you to pause the video and try the next three. While you do that, I'm going to work them out and put the work and the answers up here so that you can check yourself, all right? And I'm going to throw in all the steps so you can check your steps as well, okay? Whoa, look at that. Look how fast I did that. I'm so amazing. Yeah, about that. So, what I did was I finished solving all the problems and gave you work. The last one there, I gave you the answer, but I would like you to do the work and find the mistake if you made one. Remember that if the radical doesn't simplify, we can leave it. We don't have to reduce it or try to find the exact number. We can leave it in that form. So we have 7 plus or minus the square root of 73 over 4 for our solution in number 8. I wrote the answers in the blue, kind of that dark blue color with the set brackets, so you can see them, and they kind of stand out, all right? So you can check your work. I'm going to leave this out for a little bit, so you can pause the video, check your work, check your answers, make sure you got the same thing, and if I made a mistake, call me out on it on Monday, but I don't think so, all right? So keep at it. Keep at it. All right, so hopefully you recorded that. I mean, you paused it, did it, and we're moving on. All right, so you should have tried these, and you should have been able to get these solutions all by hand. All right, the next thing we want to talk about, we're not going to do all of these, all right? So let's take care of that right now. Snap, look at that. All right, we're all better. What I want you to do now, guys, is I want you to find the critical points. What were those points? They were the vertex, the x-intercepts, the y-intercept, and we're going to, after we find the vertex, we're going to identify the maximum, right, whatever that is, or minimum, if it has one, right? Depends on which way the parabola opens. If it opens up, it's happy, and it's going to have a minimum. If it opens down, it's sad, right? And it's going to have a maximum. All right, so let's start by finding our zeros, our x-intercepts. So what are our x-intercepts? Did we find those already, actually? I think we did. We found them on the last one. We found those x values. We'll using the quadratic formula, right? So what did we have for the first one? We had x equals -3 and -1. So that means that my x-intercepts are -3, 0, and that was -1, 0, right? Yep, that's what they were. All right, so we found our x-intercepts. Done. Let's find the y-intercept, because that's pretty easy too, right? The y-intercept was just c, all right? So the y-intercept is going to be equal to c. C here is 3. You see it there? There's c. Boom. Boom. So we get, this is the point, right? This is the point, okay? So that means that my y-intercept is 0, 3. So far, so good. We've got all these points down so fast. We have 3 points already after all that work. Whew. Now we have to find the, that's right, we need to find the vertex, okay? So in order to find the vertex, step 1 is find h. So h is equal to a negative, well, I'm not going to write it down. You should know it. So let's go, let's just plug it in. H is a negative b over 2a. So that means that h is equal to a -4 over 2 times 1, which equals, I hope you get this, it should be -2. Oops. And now we have to find k. So let's find k now. K was f of h, so that means k is going to equal f of -2, which means I plug -2 into my function. So it's a -2 squared plus 4 times -2 plus a -2 plus 3, which is going to simplify 2, 4 minus 8 plus 3, which equals -1. So my vertex is going to be remember, the vertex is the points hk, so it's going to be -2, -1. And is this going to have a maximum or a minimum? It is going to have a minimum value, right? Because it opens up. The shape of the parabola is like this, right? So it's going to have a minimum value. And the minimum value is -1. Okay? Now let's look at the next one, and let's see if you can do it. I will write everything out again like I did on the other one. I want you to find the intercepts. The x-intercepts, right? The y-intercepts, h and k, and the vertex. I want to see all the work for them, just like what I did for number 5 on number 6 in your notes for you as well. Okay? And again, you could have tried number 5 on your own and then checked your work as well. Hopefully you did. And maybe if you're watching this, you're going to anyways. So please do. And do number 6. Definitely do number 6 on your own. All right, as you can see, this wasn't a very pretty answer, but it is an answer nonetheless. So we found the intercepts. We did that before already when we used the quadratic formula. We found the y-intercept because remember that was c, and we have the vertex. And remember, this parabola is positive, so that means it opens up. So it means it's going to have a minimum value, and the minimum value is right here. It's the y. Okay? Check your work. Pause the video. Check your work. All right? See if you got those things. And we will move on a bit. How's that? Okay, let's go. Whoa. Suppose h of t equals negative 5t squared plus 10t plus 3 is an expression giving the height of a diver above the water in meters t seconds after the diver leaves the springboard. How high above the water is the springboard? Explain how you know. Okay, I want you guys to think about this for a second before I go like helping you, right? How do you know what the height is? Okay, what do you think it is? It's kind of simple. Think back to that javelin question we were doing, right? It told us how tall was that girl or guy or whoever it was. I don't know what it was. All right, that person. That person was like 6 feet, I believe, right? They said they released it at 6 feet or 6.1 feet, right? And in our equation, what did that represent? That represented, look back at your notes, right? What was it? Oh, that's right. It was C, wasn't it? Okay, that's the y-intercept. I'm hoping you guys all know this, so I don't have to be like telling you all the time, okay? So how high above the water is a springboard? I should tell you, I'd like you guys to try this first. And then, so pause the video, try to solve this, right? Because this is your review, not my review. I don't need a review. I already know how to do it. So why don't you take a minute and pause the video and try to figure this out for yourself. And I'm going to put the answers up so that you can check your work, okay? All right. So A, well, we kind of already told you, right? So how high above the water is the springboard? It is 3 meters, right? Because it says above the water in meters. So part A is 3 meters. Okay. When does the diver hit the water? Hey, guess what? If you want to find when the diver hits the water, that's when, what? Well, if this is a function of the height, right? H of t, that's when h of t equals 0. So I want to find the zeros, right, guys? So if I want to find the zeros, I'm going to have to use what to solve this problem? That's right, the quadratic formula. We're going to use the quadratic formula. All right? And when we use the quadratic formula, we are going to get 2 answers. Only one of them will be correct, though, right? And which one will be correct? The positive one, all right? That's where I'm crossing the x-axis. That's where my height is 0, but I've gone a certain amount of, a certain distance, or I should say a certain time before I hit the water, because our x variable is time. All right? I forgot to tell you, you could also use your graphing calculator to do this too, right? We can use our graphing calculator, and remember, if we graph the equation in y1 and we put negative 5x squared plus 10x plus 3 instead of the t's, right? We can find the zeros using the calculator, or the x-intercepts using the 0 function by hitting second and the trace button, and then go down to 0, hit enter, and we have to pick a left bound enter, right bound enter, then guess near the x-axis, hit enter, and then it tells us what it is. If we were to use our graphing calculator, we would get the answer 2.27 0. Okay. So when does the diver hit the water? At 2.27 seconds. If we were to use the quadratic formula, we would get, that was a negative 5 plus or minus square root 10 all over 5. That's in reduced form though, guys, right? So that's simplifying the radical. I pulled out a 4 from the radical, right? Because you get square root of 40, which is 4 times 10. You can pull out the 2. Hopefully you remember that. And then now we just have to pick the one that is going to be positive. Hey, guess what? I made a sign error, and you probably didn't catch it, but I did. So let's fix this. All right, we get plus or minus. I make mistakes too. All over, that's going to be 2 root 10 all over 5. We want the positive answer, so that's going to equal. So since we just want the positive one, right, that will be negative 5 plus 2 root 10 over 5. And I have to, if I plug this in on my calculator at this point to figure it out, and I'm going to get the same answer as before. If I didn't have a calculator, I would just leave it like that. Okay, at what time on the diver's descent towards the water is the diver again at the same height as the springboard? Again, this is when the calculator comes in uber handy, right? Because in y1, I will have put my equation, negative 5. I have to use x's because my graphing calculator isn't going to do it in terms of t, right? I put that in the y1, so it's going to be 10x plus 3. That's supposed to be a 3. Let's fix that. A 3. Right, that's all in y1. Then I hit the second button, and then I hit the mode button, and that's to quit. Mode. All right, that brings me back to my home screen, remember? And then we're going to hit once we're in the home screen, we're going to hit the vars button. Okay, and then once we hit the vars button, we go hit the arrow button over to the arrow button so that it highlights the Y bars up at the top, right? And then we are going to press enter, right? And then that brings up the Y1, right? Y1 is selected. Okay, and then we're going to hit enter again. All right, once we hit enter, our home screen will say, we have a little home screen here, and it's going to say, whoa. It's going to say Y1, and we want to put parentheses. What value are we looking for? When it is, we want X, don't we, not Y. So this method isn't going to work, is it? So let's think about this again, right? Remember, we can still use our graphing calculator to find this, all right? So we're in Y1 right now. Below Y1, we're going to put, below Y1, we're going to go down to Y2, and we want to set that equal to, what is it? We want to be the same height as the springboard, so I want to set it equal to 3. Is there another way to do this without the calculator? Absolutely. Okay? There absolutely is. So I can graph that, and then I can actually use my calculator by after I hit the graph button, I can hit second and then the trace button. So that's second and then trace. And then that will bring up my menu. And from my menu, I can select number 5. I want to go down to number 5. All right, go down to number 5. That's the intersection. And that'll find the intersection of those two lines, which is actually my solution. All right, sorry about this video, guys. I'm really tired, and this is getting really long. The other way to do this is to actually take my equation, and I'm going to set it equal to 3, which is what I wanted to do. 3, right, equals a negative 5x squared plus 10x plus 3. Move the 3 to the other side. It cancels, so I have 0 equals negative 5x squared plus 10x. So now I can solve this one by factoring very simply. I factor out a common term, which is an x, so I have x times minus 5x plus 10, and we set each one equal to 0. That's the product rule. I don't know if you remember that. So it's a negative 5x plus 10 equals 0, and we're going to solve. We obviously don't want this solution. It is a solution, but that's at time 0. We don't want time 0. So that's a negative 5x equals negative 10x equals 2. 2 what? 2 seconds, right? Don't forget your units of measure, all right, guys? And when does the diver reach the peak of the dive? Again, you can use your calculator and you can find the maximum value. We can review that really quick in class. It's getting crazy late, so I don't really want to do that. So review the maximum value. You can find that. That's the vertex, right? We've already done that back over here. We had to find the vertex, finding H and K. So that's all you have to do for part D. Part D, find the vertex. Right? I'm not going to do the work, but I will give you the answer. I find that my vertex is at 1, 8. Okay, so when does the diver reach the peak of the dive? That's going to be after 1 second, all right? So that's how we do that problem. We're going to have problems similar. Check and go over your notes for this section for the problems that we did in class, all right? Those are good examples to go over as well. Not just this one. I did this one because we didn't actually go over it in class, but I would definitely use my notes and those problems. Hopefully, when you got to class, you redid the notes and did a good job in filling in the blank on the stuff you didn't know. All right, the next one. We've actually done this one. Remember, we did this one in class. There was a typo right there. Boom. All right, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one, okay, because you all have it in your notes. I just wanted to let you know this is a really good example to study how to do the problem from. And don't forget, if you can't use your calculator, you can do this by hand, right? A and B, you should be able to do. Remember that revenue was what? Check your notes. You should have all these. I'm not going to go over this again. All right? But for part C, if you'll have access to your calculator on the quiz to do part C, but if you don't remember you have to find the vertex. Okay? Next. All right, these are a little bit different than the examples we had in that lesson with the stat plot. All right? So remember to distinguish what the difference between linear and quadratic, you had to find the first difference and the second difference of the y values. So if they're all the same on the first difference, that means when I subtract the y values the first time, then that means that the set of data represents a a linear function, and after the second difference, up to fifth difference, but not farther than that. If they're the same, it's a quadratic, and if it's not, then it's neither, okay? So let's check these out and see what we get. All right, so let's find the first difference. So we want to take and subtract the y values, and these are all in order, so I don't have to make a table or anything. I can just look at them. So I'm going to go 4 and 7 over 2. I want to subtract those, and I'm going to get my difference is 1/2. I'm going to look at 7 over 2, and 3. And I want to subtract those, and I'm actually going to get 1/2. 3 and 5 over 2. I subtract those, and I get, that's right again, 1/2. 5 over 2 and 2. Oh my. Oh dear. 1/2 all the way down. Right? So this one is linear. All right? I want you to do the next two on your own. I'm not going to do the differences. All right? So what the second difference means is after I do the first difference, right? That means I'm going to take and I'm going to look at the differences that I had before. So 1/2, let's get a different color. So 1/2 and 1/2, I subtract them and I get 0. That's what I do for the quadratic, and I would do it for each one. And if they're the same, then it is a quadratic function. So the answers are, because it's just getting late, I don't want to, again. So B is not, it's neither, right? And hey, guess what? C is quadratic. So you do your differences and you should get that. We just did stat plots today on Friday. So that's what we're going to do on, so if that's on the quiz, keep in mind, I gave you that quadratic one. That's the second question in the classwork that we may or may not have gotten to depending on what period you're in. Take a look at that and take a look at the first one. See if you can come up with the regression equations and analyze the data that way, all right? Because that can definitely and will most likely show up on the quiz on Monday. All right, guys? Thank you. This is a really long video. I hope it was helpful. And have a good night, guys. I am going home finally. Maybe.